Welcome. This is my Wednesday night Zoom called Zoom into Wine. My name is Ian Blackburn. I'm a sommelier here in Los Angeles. I've been working in the wine business for over 25 years, actually longer than that, but try to keep the appearances younger. Um, and every Wednesday, we get some great people together, taste some great wines on different subjects, different places, different grapes. This week, we kind of pulled a really unique set of wines together. We're calling it Stars of the Southern Hemisphere. Gives us a chance to kind of talk about a couple of things that are topical around the globe, seeing some of the latest, greatest efforts. I put a really nice wine list together. Let's go in and get started on that. I've got a PowerPoint that I'm playing with here. Here it comes. Before we get started, we're about to break into our Zoom into Wine annual membership as well, so be on the lookout for that. Once a year, we open up the membership, create some nice little packages for you to incentivize you to join us for another year. We will continue into the future on Wednesday nights, creating really interesting topics. And as a member, you get invited every week, whether you have the wine or not. You're still going to get the discount each week, and we create some other benefits as well. There's even a member ticket price that brings the price down to really the bare minimum. We do these tastings at cost, and so we really work hard to keep our audience happy and do some really interesting things with the wines to make the experience as great as possible. We're pulling together people from all over the place. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's get some wine going. We need wine number one in the glass. If you've got the jars, I'll talk to you about the lineup here in a minute. But wine number one is from Craggy Range. This is a top producer. Uh, that first jar needs the jaws of life to get it open. I hope your jars open up. Okay, we put them together so they don't leak. We don't do it that hard. They do leak. So there are a number of brands that are trusted in the wine business. This has become one of my go-tos for the topic, for the category. And what's interesting is it's from Martinborough, not Marlborough, which there's a lot more wine coming out of Marlborough, which is the northern tip of the southern island. This is the southern tip of the northern island, very close to each other, uh, very similar, just a little bit different here. And with Craggy Range, it's a great property. I've actually had the great fortune of visiting. Here's Marlborough, and Martinborough is over here. So this circle is actually in the wrong place. I'm just going to show you through annotation where it really is. It's right there, right there. And in fact, this is down here. It's like really a very cool spot and very special. I would edit that slide, but that is above my pay grade. I am not a graphic designer, so. And it is Fashion Week in New York, and my designer is a fashion model and really successful. And so she's been working around the clock. Um, so Craggy Range. Um, this is a brand that I actually was working for, a company called Co-Brand back in 1997 when they signed this brand new facility and we launched this brand. There was all kinds of hype and circumstance around it, some little bit of tragedy as well. As one of the assistant winemakers actually got well, actually he died in a kite surfing accident, and he was thought to be like one of the up and coming stars of the winemaking world. He had just worked for Ted Lemon at Literai, and he was down there in New Zealand. So really, a lot of emotion. There was a master of wine in charge of the project, a great guy named Steve Smith. I got to go down and stay at Craggy Range and have this amazing visit. Just they didn't spare a penny. They built this beautiful facility, really, really special, natural, organic, and they set out to really anchor one of the premium premier producer titles of all of New Zealand. You can see it right there. It is that pretty in person as well. New Zealand is pristine. It is gorgeous. They keep it that way. You eat a steak, you're going to have a tax on, how much carbon credit that steak takes. I mean, they pay for this place to stay pristine and to protect their ecosystem. And a really unique place to visit. I won't say it's the most action packed, but it may be the most chill, most like raw, organic, natural, and fairly sparse. I guess there's still more sheep than people. This is their icon wine. They make some great other wines as well, but Sauvignon Blanc is what New Zealand is really zeroed in on. And in Martinborough, they kind of brag a little bit about the actual cooling air and the more racing acidity. I mean, all of New Zealand has this fantastic acidity, but you pull off a little different concept here because a lot of the Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs almost have a sweetness to them. Um, uh, I'm sure some of them even play with that a little bit, leaning into a little higher residual sugar just to offset some of that acidity, much like they do in German Riesling. But here, really clean, really dry, and almost a salty, they call it salinic acidity. The nose is perfumed, but not so cotton candy like we get down in Marlborough. And I really love that pungent. I think the word descriptors here: passion fruit, kefir, lime, and whitestone fruit. And I think that nails it. Yeah, it's gorgeous there. Wine Spectator has loved this wine almost every year. And what we're tasting tonight, when we started promoting this event, we were still selling the 2022, and we have now moved into the 2023. Brand new 2023 is in your glass. That's what we sent out. Stephanie, I hope you got a bottle of 23 as well. I'm worried about that. Mm. Put that in your mouth. It is youthful, but wow, is that just sizzle, crackle, sizzle? That is really, really exaggerated and popping. That'll wake your palate up. That is like espresso for the wine palate. Price still amazing. 21.95. This is one of the best wines and there are a couple, Cloudy Bay would be another very good name. I like their wine. Frankly, I like this one better. But I like the super high-end Cloudy Bay, which is like 50, $60 a lot. That's very good. Hard to sell a lot of a $50, $60 New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, especially when they're this good at this price. And by the way, 2023, a very good vintage. And that is good news for New Zealand, who's had really a tough couple sets of years with some rain, some shatter, some frost, some all kinds of crazy locusts. I mean, they had it all. So New Zealand back in full effect in 23 with supply. And that also helps put some pressure and downward pressure on pricing when there's such a generous vintage. That means a lot of people will be coming in with aggressive pricing. So Craggy was wise not to take this particular moment to raise price. So enjoy the 23 New Zealand Sauv Blanc. If you've already finished that, you are thirsty. because this wine takes a moment just to really kind of embrace and let it change you a little bit. You know, sometimes the wine changes in the glass. Sometimes that first 5 minutes with a glass of wine in our hand and a little bit in the mouth, that changes us. And this is that moment. So take that for a second. As I talk about the Zoom I have next week, I have some high aspirations to get a pretty good size audience on this super high quality Burgundy tasting next week. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir Supreme. The wine list is fantastic. I've priced it aggressively, $39. Members are a little less than that. I would love for you to take a look at the lineup. I think you will be very impressed with the wines. That's our job. We're here, we aim to please and show you some really good stuff. And I went to Burgundy in April. I got all kinds of stuff to talk about next week, and I'm real excited about it. So jump on board if you can. We got plenty of kits available. The week after that, I'm putting together a knockout tasting on Spanish. I call them gold nuggets because I've been using the stars words and other things often. I just said, you know what? Gold nuggets. That's right. I don't even know if, you know, that certainly a lot of gold made it back to Spain, but I don't think they ever discovered gold in Spain. They just took a lot of it. So gold nuggets of Spain in a couple of weeks. Great wine lineup. Let's go on to wine number 2. This is our Aussie entry today. This is a Leeuwin estate. Now, in a tasting we did on Chardonnay over the summer, we featured the top wine called Artist Series. I think it was even the same vintage. But this is the Prelude, and this is a selection, as is Artist. The same winemaker. I can't say it's the same wine. It's just a different idea, but a lot of the same technique, same winery, same everything. This is not a huge winery. It's sizable. It's significant. But you know, they're making wine for the world, and they do a good amount. But this, you know, the Artist Series is $100 Chardonnay. You could sell $100 Chardonnay to only so many places in the world, and only at so much velocity. This is the workhorse, and I think you're going to be really impressed with this. I still have my Craggy in the glass. I'm going to come back and taste that again later. So I'm going to go into wine glass number 2. Damn, these jars are tight. Woo! These are not leaking from here. I'm going to show you a little video as we taste this wine, and then we'll talk directly about this wine. This video is a little bit more like the winemaker talking about wine in Leeuwin. Talk to the greatest winemakers in the world and really get like an insight onto the wine, the place, the variety. And I'm so thrilled to be able to have Tim Lovett with us right now. He is the head winemaker at Leeuwin Estate in the beautiful Margaret River in Australia. Good morning, good evening, Tim. How are you, sir?
Very well, Ian. How are you? Great to have me.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled because we love our Leeuwin Estate wines, and you're absolutely a major puzzle piece, and a reason that we put the Heroes of Chardonnay on is to be able to give people a lot of perspective. You know, we're going to be tasting wines from all over the world. You've been the winemaker there since around 2016, right?
Yeah, senior winemaker since 2016. That's correct.
And at Leeuwin Estate, they're famous for a lot of different. Just going to note that you're not seeing my video. Is that true? I'm going to make sure that you guys are seeing that, and I'll reshare. I'm going to move this video up. Heroes of Chardonnay Chardonnay on is to be able to give people a lot of perspective. You know, we're going to be tasting wines from all over the world. You've been the winemaker there since around 2016, right?
Yeah, senior winemaker since 2016. That's correct.
And at Leeuwin Estate, they're famous for a lot of different things. I mean, this is a magnificent property. And when you visit Australia, you don't just think of going to the winery to taste wine. It's a full experience type of a destination.
What makes Margaret River so special, to begin with, is as you can see on the map there, we're surrounded by the Indian and Southern Oceans, and that really gives us maritime influence. So we have that kind of cooling sea breeze that comes through, and with regards to the vines, that really moderates them overall. So as a region, it makes not just ourselves, but the region itself very consistent with the Mediterranean climate. When you look specifically at Leeuwin Estate as a site, we're 668 hectares of land, with just over 160 hectares under vine, with an amazing amount of new plantings that we really kind of began from 2016 and then 19 and 21. So with that, the Horgan family are pioneers of Leeuwin Estate. They purchased the property in 1969, and then with the energy and the thoughtfulness of Robert Mondarby, who wanted to purchase the property in 1971, the first vines were in the ground. So when Dennis and Trish purchased the property, Dennis was a surfer. He bought the property for surfing because there's some of the most epic waves in the world. And with that, the original plantings on the estate were Chardonnay and Cabernet.
It really speaks to the how great a location you are because of the consistency and the quality that you've been able to achieve.
Yeah,
spectacular.
I think that this picture actually really amplifies what I'm talking about. In the fore distance, you've got the sun setting, which is the Leeuwin Ridge. You've got that particular photo is about 6.5 kilometers from the Indian Ocean. Then you come over the Leeuwin Ridge where it's all limestone, and then it's all threaded through with lateritic iron-rich gravel, which actually started out as Precambrian granite bedrock. So Precambrian, so we're talking about 750 million years old. And then in the tertiary, that bedrock washed away to this gravel that you see, especially at the forefront overall. And I think if you combine that maritime influence and Mediterranean climate, free draining soils, it really gives a moderating factor, a buffering capacity to each of the vines. So they're not high yielding. They're quite low yielding overall, which gives us great concentration, and its perfume, its fragrance, its intensity overall. So, and most importantly, it's about translating what we see out in the patch or in the paddock and articulating that into the glass. And there's a few pictures there from the restaurant through into the tasting room, and yeah, there's many accolades. I don't tend to talk about accolades too much, but the details in the glass overall, and we're looking at the 21 Prelude Chardonnay today.
Yeah, and Prelude is it's a value in the portfolio. Is it a particular slice of the vineyard, or is it a selection of the wines that maybe could go into Artist Series?
Complete selection that is determined for Prelude. So Art Series, just shying away from Prelude just a touch, is really based on the original plantings of Chardonnay on site, which is Block 20 and Block 22, planted in 1975 and 1977. And Prelude is a slightly coming from younger vineyards, but more clonal spectrum. So Gingin's the predominant clone within Margaret River, where it experiences a mirandage, which is kind of like hen and chicken, big berry, small berry. The smaller berries have the concentration because they ripen earlier. The bigger berries hold the acidity. So that's the backbone behind Prelude. I think the focus with Prelude Chardonnay is a wine that really the detail is not just clonal, but site and younger sites, but to be really complete and holistic in its youth. And that comes down to how we nurture that and how we respect that out in the paddock, where a portion of it's hand harvested, a portion of it is machine harvested. There's some whole bunch of pressing. There's free drain. There's some skin contact as well. So we're really kind of looking at creating that landscape overall.
For Prelude with winemaking, what is the major difference? Is it is how much wood, how much stainless?
Yeah, definitely. So Prelude receives 30% new, mainly Burgundian Cooper oak, and then the remainder 1-year-old, all in 225 and 228 litre format. And what I love about Burgundian oak, with 9 months maturation and then seeing it in bottle, it creates this kind of beautiful, kind of sweet nougat, brioche notes, and that's what I want to see early in its youth. For Art Series, it's very different. It's 100% new Bordelais Cooper oak, tighter grain, lighter toast. So that's Art Series is about energy in its youth, but then longevity to 20 to 30 years beyond. So Prelude is all about having all of those components built within its tapestry to be consumed on release to 5-6 years.
Thank you, Tim. We're going to taste now with our group, and appreciate your time today.
Pleasure.
Heroes of Chardonnay. All right, here we go. So Tim was talking to me when he was in London. I forgot when we recorded 2 sessions. We did one on Artist Series and one on the Prelude, and that was cool. And so we got it firsthand from the winemaker there, all about Margaret River. We brought a group, a couple of our regular travelers. Kay and Gary were on the trip with me, and we planned the trip. Takes about a year out to kind of survey where we should go, what we should do, who we should see, what kind of order that's going to be in, all that stuff. At no point in time when I was talking to the travel agents, the hotels, the wineries, all that stuff, when I told them I was coming in November, nobody mentioned fly season. They have these amazing big flies that appear only for a couple of weeks in November. And they were aggressive, and we had to wear like beekeeper hats for a couple of weeks. I mean, we weren't there for a couple of weeks, but the people there do. And it's because it's on the edge of the earth. So we're at Leeuwin Estate. And by the way, by the time we got to Leeuwin Estate, flies were pretty gone. They're very much more in balance at Leeuwin Estate, except when we're walking into the winery, and almost every winery in Australia, New Zealand, they all have these amazing restaurants because that's their business model. You go there, eat, drink some wine, buy some extra bottles. That's part of the experience. So Leeuwin has this amazing restaurant and an amphitheater for concerts and stuff. And as we're there, the skies are dark, and it's a more tropical place, and the wind's coming in, and all of a sudden here comes some rain. And as soon as the first drop of rain appears in the sky, 10 gazillion termites fly up in the sky from east to west and blacken the sky. And then the rain really starts coming down, and of course the termites disappear. But we were in the restaurant at Leeuwin Estate, and they had all these blowers, these fans, because it was pretty warm. And the fans became like these propellers for throwing insects across the dining room. And it was quite a experience being in the dining room at Leeuwin Estate. I'm sure they're not a super fan of me talking about that. Doesn't happen every day, but man, there were termites flying all over the place, dinging into glasses. It was quite a feat of balance in nature. It was just like, wow, look at this. Big flies and being ambushed by termites. Those were two experiences I had in the Margaret. Kristen says midges, is that what they're called? Is that the fly or the termite?
It's just like a smaller bug. So I don't know if they get bigger, but every time I've been there, they're midges.
Okay.
It just
Well, I think it's all perspective. The flies were the biggest I've ever seen in my life, and the termites were huge, but they were not, I never saw them again. They were only there for that 1 second right before the rain and then gone. So it was quite interesting and memorable. So we've covered quite a bit of ground on Leeuwin. Just that's the patio right there, and they had these fans set up all around the extremity of the patio. And a really nice review, a couple of keywords: jasmine, frangipane, cashew, almond meal, popcorn. He's not into scores, but I appreciate being able to show people scores, give people some confidence. And if you've never tasted it before, it's nice to see what some of the pros think about it. And I hope you quite enjoyed it. That's $30 versus the $100+ bottle of Artist Series. So a very nice baby brother, baby sister of Artist Series, and a nice wine. It's 2021. Probably now they're selling the 22s, and I'm sure someplace might even have the 23. It just depends on how much they loaded up on each particular marketplace. But 22, 23, maybe 23 is probably starting to appear here. We're going to continue with our scope of Southern Hemisphere wineries. We've gone from New Zealand to Australia. Now we're going to Patagonia. And soon I'm going to lead a group trip down to Argentina. Please say your prayers. We are going from Buenos Aires to Salta, Salta to Mendoza, Mendoza back to Buenos Aires down to Patagonia. We're going to be visiting this winery. This is owned by Chacra, Bodega Chacra. This is their Barda Pinot Noir. This is Piero Incisa della Rocchetta. He decided he wanted to remove himself from the politics, the family that he comes from, which is involved in the production of Sassicaia, and take his time, energy, and finances down and prove himself in a place that is pretty unproven. I mean, Patagonia had some wine business. He found some vine material. He really liked what he saw. He saw some potential, and he said, you know what? I think that's the spot. And I have no idea how he came to that conclusion, because here's a guy who could probably buy great vineyards in Burgundy if he wanted, or great vineyard in Bordeaux or Napa Valley or anywhere else in the world. But he found a spot in Patagonia that caught his attention. And that was in 2004. He went to school here in LA. I got to know him pretty well when he was going to Pepperdine. He was very involved in the family business at that time. and he got very involved in all things Patagonia. And he got involved with a very good friend of his from Burgundy, Jean-Marc Rouleau. And Jean-Marc is not a consulting winemaker, but he is actually a partner in the product, and certainly hands-on in wine production. He and Piero make the Pinots. Jean-Marc, whose family, Rouleau and Merceau, has no problem making white wine. So Piero's like, I stay out of the way with the Chardonnay and I get my hands dirty in the Pinot Noir. And so this is the brand new Chacra wine facility we'll be visiting. We will be amongst the grapevines, the trees, the wind, and not much else down there for miles and miles. A very natural place. He does everything biodynamic, and we're going to be doing some biodynamic practices on the vineyard, making some of the biodynamic teas, doing some beekeeping, working with the vineyards. We'll see what else they got in store for us. There's Piero. He's been getting some huge notice for his wines. Put in Chacra into the search browser of any wine site. James Suckling in particular will be really verbose about what's happening there because he knows the family. He knows him very well from Italy. He was the wine writer for the Wine Spectator in Italy, so he's got a piece of him invested in this. And James has spent a huge amount of energy in the Southern Hemisphere. He even owns a home in New Zealand. And he's in Argentina all the time. So he's pretty on Johnny on the spot. And he was really the one that championed this brand. Now, again, what we're tasting is the Barda. We're tasting the 23 that just came into the warehouse. This I've had every vintage since 2019. So this is our fourth vintage with the wine. This is his entry-level Pinot. They make $60 Pinot, they make $90 Pinot, they make $150 Pinot. I think I carry all of them. One day at a time, we kind of take a look at the inventory and say, oh, we're out. What can we get? Oh, it's all gone. Let us know when the next vintage comes in. We had just run out of a pretty good chunk of this wine that I bought from the last vintage. So we're stocking up currently on the 23. This got 94 points. I only spent a second with it on Monday when we got it. I want to spend a second with it right now and taste it with you. And we've got some great tasters on this Zoom with me tonight. So let's get you all involved. Kristen, you want to taste with me on this one? You tell me what you got. And Kristen, I noticed that T-shirt. I've seen that before. You are a member of the USA tasting team, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is super cool. When do those competitions start up again?
That would be October 11th and 12th in Bordeaux.
Damn, that's
I know. So I'm getting in, like I'm cramming in, and I thought this would be a great, little cheater class.
Well, awesome.
Get a couple of awesome wines because I mean a Pinot from Patagonia.
You might see it in Bordeaux because they do sell these wines into France. I don't know if it has to be world distributed, but he's in a lot of markets, 60 markets, I think.
I would love to be surprised by that.
Well, I don't know how you can get typical about Patagonian Pinot, but it's certainly Pinot. What are you smelling in the nose?
Mostly red fruit, red plum, red cherry. I definitely picked up on the wood, the sandalwood, and it even has like a tiny bit medicinal. But I'm still reaching for some kind of a rock, some kind of like, soil, dirt. I'm still looking for that.
Yeah, it's pretty primary. It's a little youthful. I know he just uses a small amount of stem inclusion in this particular wine.
Okay.
There is a good amount of younger fruit involved in this particular spot. He has a block of vines that are 55 years old and another block that's like 80 something years old. I think that's
Oh,
on the label. So, uh, but this is some of the plantings that he's put in the ground since 2004. And obviously we're in a new world part of the world, so a little more sunshine than we might have in, say, uh, France. But I think it's pretty cool down there. You get a lot of like cranberry.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's pretty juicy. It is pretty primary, little green, like an underripe kind of a state right now, and maybe even a little shocked up because I agree with you. I don't get that rock. It's pretty much fruit at this moment and kind of like a wine that's in process. It even has almost like a just finished malactic vibe going on.
It still feels to me like sharp. And the acid, um, pretty grippy.
Yeah. It's got bigger elements to it than past vintages though. I think that the fruit is a little heavier, the mouth is a little richer, and I think that it just needs some time in bottle. Um, this is a 23. I don't think I even see any California 23s, and they've got 6 months on us down
Mm.
there. So, I mean, that tells you a little bit about the velocity in which he's selling the wine, but potentially this wine needs just a little bit more time in bottle to really become pretty. And I think that's, whenever a reviewer like James is going to taste, he's probably tasting out of wood. And when we take wine out of the winery, it's, maybe it's 100, maybe it's more wood barrels that they blend together into a large tank. They may even filter that on the way to the bottle. He does minimal intervention. And in fact, he makes very low sulfur additions. Um, but I think here it's just a little bit, on the younger side, but got some really good pieces. It just needs some time. And so I think it's a little bit like you know, kind of a teenager, just needs to grow into all that facial hair. Hmm. All right. That was wine number 3, Bodega Chacra. And check out the white wines as well, the Chardonnays. We did just get the newest vintage in on that. And it's a brand to be excited about. It's going to be really, really special. And I'll be able to report back later on some more things. And in Argentina, this winery also makes a line of wines that is completely natural, no additional sulfur, fresh only for the Argentine market. And so he's got a whole different personality there in the marketplace. We'll see what else we find. We're going to go to wine number 4. Get my slideshow back engaged. Stephanie, how's that wine treating you tonight? Good to see you. Windy.
Delicious.
Good. Is David there? Is Dave?
Yes, we're dealing with our Corbin and we've got issues.
Oh no. If you break a needle, I have them in stock.
He's replacing the needle.
It happens. Jason and Julie Bell, I'd love to say hi to you when you get a chance. That we went through hell and back, and they got their tasting kits finally delivered after GLS dropped them off somewhere else.
Hey Ian, how's it going?
Good. Did the person they drop them off to like add a little side of whiskey or anything like that to your order?
We were hoping, but no, it just was the 2 flight kit, unfortunately.
All right, all right. Well, I'm glad you got them, and I'm so happy you could be here.
And we can participate.
All right, here we go. Wine number 4. Let's do it. I don't think you got into my picture again. I wonder why that's happening. Folks at Zoom just upgraded their software. I hope you're having better luck with their new software upgrade than I am. As on the user side, it's a little different. Manser. This is a brand out of the McLaren Vale, Australian Shiraz Grenache blend. This is we were in Australia before on the extreme west coast. So this is dead south. This is Texas basically to Australia. This is way down there and but kind of beneath the Barossa Valley, right up until the ocean. And a really interesting spot. This wine does have a little age on it, so I'm gonna open it instead of pouring it out of the bottle. I want to pour it out of the decanter. See how it made it. 16 vintage, and that's not an accident. That's just what happens when someone gets involved in importation, doesn't have the capital reserves, and a pandemic comes along. And so she got pretty hurt by the pandemic and couldn't really afford the vintages that year after year and decided to close her importer. She had about a pallet of this wine remaining, and it was destined to be about a $45 bottle of wine. I got a much better price than that. So we were able to pass that on. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see how it tastes in the glass here. Let me tell you about it before I get personal with it, but this is McLaren Vale in Australia. This is kind of what I was telling you about. You've got a lot of different great growing areas here. If you've ever been out there, you might have even been to Kangaroo Island. It was so hot the last time I was there, there weren't even any kangaroo visible. They were hiding. That's how hot it was. But it's a really gorgeous part of Australia. A lot of vineyard land, a lot of really good wineries down the McLaren Vale. And Manser's been there for a long time. This is a very reputable producer. And they all have kind of a quirky little personality, little story about their handshake deals and stuff. There you go. You got your eucalyptus trees and oaks there in the background. Probably some koala. You got Shiraz and Grenache. Often, many of these vines are very old. This is not a young wine country. Australia's been making wine since the 1600s, since before this country was even established. And they've got some really old vine material down in McLaren Vale. So got some pretty good scores. I tasted the bottle, right out of opening. There is some maturity. I want to see how it handled our journey here. Beautiful. Out of the jar, it's really nice and fresh. It's got the perfect amount of development, a little bit of just a little bit of time age on that nose. Kind of everything is integrated together really nice. $20, guys. It's just a super little bottle of wine. Not a lot of words here on the review, but just talks about the vine age and the score. But let's give it our own review. Color, it's got some pretty good color, even though, you know, at 10 years of age, it's starting to brick just a little bit. So you show some of that time. The nose is beautiful, man. It's throwing off all kinds of fruit, but also some of that savory from the age in the bottle and the bottle development. Grenache can have a lot of like leafy characteristic to it. Often looking for things like tomato plant or tomato garden kind of smells. And then Syrah can have all kinds of things like from the smell of bacon and ham and chocolate. And you put all that together into a salad and it kind of smells like this wine. Baked chocolate brownies with small bits of red fruit and little bacon bits sprinkled on top. Salted chocolate. How about that? Mariah, I got to remember to use this for the next chocolate class. I got this fantastic salted chocolate. It's about 60% cacao. This is going to go magic with that. You know, the Shiraz is the primary grape that we usually get from Australia. And Shiraz had one mad moment for sure back, you know, early 2000s. This grape variety, maybe even into the 90s, very much on fire with the value proposition it presented. We went crazy and we drank it till we couldn't drink it anymore. And then we stopped. And Australia has been trying to figure out how to get that going again here in America. There are so many good wines. You know, one of my favorite Rieslings comes from Australia. We tasted one of my favorite Chardonnays. Uh, there's great Grenache and Shiraz. There's great Cabernet. There's all it's just like like America, where they do so many things very well, and but they do it with just a little different touch. And I think that's the difference that kind of separates us a little bit. But I like having different wines every day, and visiting Australia on a time to time is a good idea. It's not, it's going the opposite way than going to like Europe. It's kind of going into a warmer climate with a little different personality. And these guys do it very, very well. I hope you enjoyed. We're going to move into wine number 5. Wine number 5, we're going back to Argentina for a classic, Catena Zapata, whom I'm also going to visit on our trip to Argentina. This is their Catena Tinto, the Historico. They make a number of different wines. We'll talk about that in a second. But here's where we are. You know, the Andes Mountains are enormous. It's just hard to tell you until you're there and you're standing in Mendoza at 4,000 feet and you look up, and if you've ever been to like, you know, downtown New York or Chicago or LA and you look straight up, the buildings look tall. The mountains are so much taller than that. You just can't even imagine how tall they are. They're gigantic and they're immense. That's all you can see along this border. And it's why the wines are working there on both sides of the fence. It's perfect over here in Chile. It's perfect over here in Mendoza. And the water is amazing. Well, Catena has been around doing things very well for a long time. And you know, Argentina wasn't famous, nor were they making large amounts of anything worth exporting. But by the time you get to the 1990s, they saw the potential. They had things working in the right direction. They brought in expert, we've talked about this before. Paul Hobbs was hired to come in to Argentina to help them make Cabernet. He had helped Opus One get started. He worked in Europe. He gets down into Argentina and they're like, let's make some great Cabernet. And he gets down there and he's like, wait a second. I've never seen Malbec this amazing. And he said, you know what? No one in the world is making great Malbec. If Argentina wants to make Cabernet, great. You'll be another great Cabernet. But consider making Malbec because you could be the world's reference for Malbec. And that's what happened. I'm going to taste this out of bottle. Oh, look at that. We're going to be there at the pyramid at Zapata. That's where we're going to have lunch. The base of the Andes Mountains, and there's snow on those mountains pretty much like that all year round. That is not fake. That is not AI. I had Laura Catena come and visit me in the office here, and she tasted my beekeeper with me, and I was tasting her wines, and yeah, good times. This is 75 Malbec, 18 Bonarda, and 7 Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot and Malbec are both considered Bordeaux varieties. Bonarda, that is some crazy stuff. And I think the only other reference that I know of might be Madeira. Frankly, maybe something in Italy. I think last year she 23, she was voted the world's best vineyards, #1 in the world, best vineyards in the world. They make a lot of different wines and they do them very well. And by the way, Dr. Laura Catena is a actual doctor of medicine. I think she's a surgeon. She might even be a brain surgeon. I mean, she's A-type plus and super great. Galaxy Tab S2. Good job. I like that little barnyard reference on the nose. I definitely get a little bit, you know, in Bordeaux, we often talk about, you know, the smell of like baby's crap in a Bordeaux. It is actually a reference in the nose. And in some areas, it can be a little more barnyardy, a little more animal, a little more wet animals sometimes. But here, I do think it's got just a little bit of dramatic funk. I don't know if I can attest that to Bernarda, but I love Bernarda from Argentina. We're going to taste quite a few when we're there. Excellent, Mariah. I was wondering, I didn't want to call you out. Yeah, cool. I'm liking the comments. The wine's classic, but also has some unique features. That Bernarda element isn't as common on a lot of the wines. Petit Verdot being another fiddle in there. I think the wine's pretty cool. And the wine is absolutely built for good quality value, coming in at around 22 bucks a bottle. I do sell some of the 150, $200+ stuff that they make as well. And those are always vying for like 100-point scores and best wine in the world. This one is just a little bit more practical and super stable and a nice I like the little difference that the Bernarda is bringing to this wine and the Petit Verdot. Very fun. I'm so happy to be able to taste. Yes, Jason, I didn't mean to ignore that fantastic color, but Malbec always has that almost like I mean, it is like red, like purple dye. You know, it's got some really nice deep saturated color because those grape skins are thick and they see some amazing sunshine up there at that altitude. And yeah, Malbec is a special grape when it comes to color. Yeah, I'd love to compare it to a Charbonneau in California. There are some good ones. Let's now move to our piece de resistance, the dessert wine. I'm so happy that I found this wine. This is a wine I was able to buy down in South Africa. I went back there many years ago. My best friend's Clay Morrison. I make wine with him up in Sonoma. He married a South African and got married down outside of Durban in a big 5 game reserve. So I took that time to go down there and tour, you know, Cape Town and into Stellenbosch and along the coast of South Africa. You got Cape Town. Right down here, you've got Constantia. And they speak Afrikaans down there, and it's pretty rough and raw, but I got this one down pretty good. This is Klein Constantia. And it's called Von de Constance. You got to say it pretty aggressively like that. They've only been making wine there, planted in 1685. And let me see, where was the note there that I wanted to say? Now, here's the truth. When I was there in 2004, the owner and the winemaker had a little, I think it was 2003 or 2004, had a, I won't say a little spat. They got a divorce. The owner and the winemaker just said, "Erp," and took off and left without saying how anything works or where anything is or anything like that. And the owner had to find some very young, smart guy to come in and figure everything out. That's normally pretty easy, you know, at a winery until you get to a wine like this. No one else is making it. No one else tries to make it. And the poor winemaker had to like guess and ask questions and hope that he'd figure it out. And it took him a couple of years. But the property is magic. And this is what makes that wine. This land is crazy. It is like Jurassic Park for grapes. I say that all the time, but look at how you can almost expect a pterodactyl to come flying over the hill any moment. Here is our little winery. The grape here is a Muscat, and it is a very special Muscat wine. $97 decanter. Think about honeysuckle aromas, orange zest. You know, we don't get a lot of quince here unless you're doing a cheese plate or something, but think like you know, like a citrusy paste. The label says natural sweet wine, 2016. The bottle is super cute. You are magnetized to the bottle. There's 14% alcohol here. So that tells me a little bit. They really don't tell you a lot about how this wine is made. I suspect this is done on straw mats. But that 14% alcohol, that might be where they stop the fermentation because you'd almost have to arrest it to stay at 14. It's not inexpensive. This wine is so much work to make. They're going to pick the grapes, put them on mats, dry them down to raisinate a little bit, then press and work with the raisinated juice, very much like a Vinsanto. That's where you're getting this super elevated ripeness. You're getting a ton of residual sugar, even at 14% alcohol. The saltiness of the fresh air, that coastal craziness gives it this wonderful acidity that comes blasting through this sweet wine to like completely dry out your palate. It's really this is one of the greatest dessert wines on the planet. I think can say that 40 or 50 times a year because I love dessert wine. How does everybody not fall in love with a wine like this? If you could have this wine with this blue cheese that I just had this weekend in my cheese class, holy smokes, it was the most magic blue. It blew people's mind. And it was encased in this black wax. And it was from France. And it was from Germany. It was from Germany. It was called Noir. And it was this craziest, creamiest, most exaggerated blue, but not blue like funky blue. It just was super creamy. And then you hit that really dramatic blue vein, and you have a wine like this with that. You that is a pairing that's impossible to top. The length in this wine, the fun that this wine creates. You've just finished a beautiful meal. Everyone's sitting around the table. A little splash of this just prolongs the conversation, elevates the energy, allows the body to relax, prepares the mind for what's next, which is, after dinner. Maybe it's dinner, maybe it's sleep time. This is absolutely what you want to finish off a great meal. And if you go to Hungary or go to a Tokai and from Eastern Europe, get a Banyuls, get a tawny port, a Madeira, a dessert wine from Bordeaux, the Noble Rot. There's so many things to look for, and this just sits alongside all those great classics. And I really think it's something everyone should be aware of. There are people that don't like dessert wines, they can go a little too far. I strongly disagree. What do you think of the dessert? Yum, huh? Yeah, I'm glad. Joanna in my office loves dessert wine. I think she'll appreciate this one. Steph, I hope you and Dave enjoyed it. Jason and Julie, I hope the dessert wine was worth it alone. And thanks for enduring. Yeah, I want everybody to try that blue cheese, Stephanie. It was so good. So good. I got it from the Beverly Hills cheese store. Go and see Tony. Tell him Ian's bragging about that blue cheese. He just got in this container from Europe too. It was just super special. Thank you all. I hope that you'll come and join me in the coming weeks. We've got some really special wine lineups, and we'll continue right through the end of the year and into next year. Join us. Think about joining our membership. We're going to launch that this week, and we'll talk about it in the future. We'll promote that for the next couple of sessions. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night, and go Dodgers.